Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're plunging headfirst into the really high-octane world of top-tier football management. Think about it. You've got these tactical masterminds, right? These larger-than-life personalities and just incredible high-stakes drama. And it unfolds not just on the pitch, but, well, often behind the scenes, too.
It really is an arena where, strategic brilliance and sheer force of will, they often merge into something truly captivating. And our subject today, he embodies that like maybe no one else. Jose Mourinho.
That's right. Often dubbed the special one. And his career is just an absolute masterclass. Tactical innovation, psychological warfare, and this relentless, almost obsessive pursuit of victory.
Yeah, obsessive is a good word for it sometimes.
You either love him or you. Well, you definitely have a strong opinion on him. There's not much middle ground.
Indeed. And for this deep dive, our mission is really to cut through some of that noise and give you a shortcut, sort of to understanding the complex forces at play behind the scenes of elite soccer. We're zeroing in on two pivotal chapters in his story. Those two unforgettable stints at Chelsea Football Club, and then his, let's say, often tumultuous time at Manchester United.
Yeah, tumultuous is definitely one way to put it. So we're going to unpack his unique coaching philosophy, examine how he wielded different forms of power within these massive institutions, these huge clubs.
And reveal the significant impact he had, both positive and, let's be honest, negative on these clubs and just the broader football landscape.
Get ready to gain, hopefully, a profound understanding of one of football's most compelling and maybe controversial figures. Okay, let's unpack this. To truly get Mourinho's impact, we have to start with the bedrock, right? The foundation of his coaching, this concept called tactical periodization. Now, this isn't just, running laps or doing passing drills in isolation. It's a profound soccer-specific philosophy. It fundamentally prioritizes tactics in all aspects of training and planning.
It's an approach that basically says everything we do is about how we play the game. Every single thing. And what's fascinating here is that tactical periodization isn't some, self-invented concept that Mourinho just cooked up in a lab somewhere.
As roots.
Exactly. Its spiritual father, as he's often described, is a Portuguese sports scientist named Vitor Freire. Now, Freire was Mourinho's mentor, and he instilled this deep intellectual root in him. So you're not just dealing with a coach who has a gut feeling. This is a coach who built his entire methodology on a structured, almost academic foundation.
And crucially, it stands in really stark contrast to the more traditional training methods, right? Which often completely separate the physical, the technical, the tactical elements.
Yeah, the old way.
Think about that old school periodization, maybe borrowed from individual sports like track and field, where you might have, separate speed weeks or endurance weeks for an athlete.
Right, like building blocks.
Mourinho's belief, though, born directly from tactical periodization, is that training must always be soccer-specific and holistic. It's about training the game, not just its individual components chopped up.
Exactly. And what this means in practice is that tactics, technique, fitness, mental ability, they are always integrated. Every single exercise, every drill, no matter how simple it might seem on the surface, is game-specific.
Okay.
The core idea is to represent the complexity of the game in every single training session. So it's never about isolating a skill, like just passing a ball back and forth aimlessly. It's about how that skill functions within the larger game model, how it contributes to the team's overall identity on the pitch.
Right. So you're constantly solving game-like problems, even in what looks like a simple drill.
Precisely. That's the key. You're always thinking football, always thinking tactics.
And you see this philosophy reflected so beautifully in what one of his most iconic players, Didier Drogba, Champions League winner under Mourinho at Chelsea, said about him. Drogba famously stated, "Mourinho didn't teach me how to play football. I know how to play football.
Yeah, great quote.
He taught me how to play in a team, which is something different." And that's why he is successful wherever he is. And that just perfectly underscores the focus, doesn't it? Collective understanding, execution, the synergy of the team over just individual brilliance in isolation.
It's about fitting those individual pieces into a complex, winning puzzle. He sees the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
And that quote perfectly segues into the next core tenet, crafting the game model. Now, this isn't just a basic formation, like saying, we play 4-4-2.
No, it's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It's the team's unique DNA. It's comprehensive blueprint for how the team will play in all 4 game phases. So that's possession when you have the ball, transition to defense the moment you lose it, defense itself when the opponent has it, and then transition to offense the moment you win it back.
Okay, all 4 moments covered.
It's the overarching kind of living identity of the team on the pitch. It dictates every player's movement, their decisions, their contribution in every single moment of a match.
It's the deep underlying strategy that defines the team. And Mourinho puts it into practice with, well, almost ruthless efficiency sometimes.
Ruthless is right.
When he first joined Chelsea, remember, fresh off winning the Champions League with Porto, his initial analysis of the existing players led him to a pretty stark conclusion.
Yeah. What was it?
He basically said they did not fit his planned game model.
Wow. Straight up.
Straight up. What does that mean? It meant he saw a collection of talented individuals, sure, but not the specific profiles, the types of players he needed to execute his vision for how his team would play.
So changes were needed immediately.
Immediately. That necessitated strategic squad changes, not just recommended, but absolutely required to align the personnel with his deeply ingrained philosophy. He didn't try to fit his model to the players. He found or adapted players to fit his model. That's a key distinction.
Yeah, absolutely. But what's crucial to understand, I think, is that this game model isn't rigid. It's not set in stone. While it provides a really strong foundation, it's flexible and continuously refined.
So evolve.
It has to. It adapts to the characteristics of the players he has at his disposal, the specific structure of the team, the goals for the season, even the playing culture of the league he's coaching in. You know, the Premier League is different from Serie A or La Liga.
Right.
So it's like a living document that guides every decision, constantly being tweaked based on what's working, what isn't. It's almost like a dynamic playbook that evolves with the team and the challenges they face week in, week out.
And he even had a memorable, really practical way of communicating these complex tactical principles in-game, didn't he? Under immense pressure. The color box system.
Oh, yes, the color boxes.
You imagine this. Mourinho on the touchline, maybe things aren't going right. He needs to make an instant adjustment. He'd shout, "Blue box."
And the team knew instantly.
Exactly. They knew almost instinctively that meant intense, high-energy pressing. Go get the ball back. Now.
Or maybe green box.
Right. Which meant, okay, keep possession, slow the game down, give the team a moment to rest, reorganize, take the sting out of the game.
It's ingenious, really, that distilling incredibly complex tactical ideas into immediate, actionable commands. It bypasses lengthy explanations and just allows for instant collective execution.
It's a testament to how deeply he must have ingrained these principles in training, right, for them to react like that.
Absolutely. It had to be drilled relentlessly. And this brings us back to his fundamental philosophical underpinning, as he himself stated with just absolute clarity. First is philosophy. The start of everything is you decide the style of play.
Simple as that.
Seems simple, but it's profound. This isn't just a casual remark. It cements the idea that his entire approach, every single decision from player transfers to daily training routines, stems from this clear foundational vision. It's the North Star that guides his entire coaching universe.
Okay, so you have this highly detailed game model, this unique DNA for your team. How do you actually implement that vision day to day? Because that's where the rubber really meets the road, isn't it?
Yeah, the practical application.
How do you drill that level of precision and collective understanding into a team on a weekly basis? It sounds incredibly complex.
It is complex, but it's structured. And that's precisely where the microcycle comes in the meticulous weekly structuring of tactical periodization. This is where Mourinho's precision and planning really, really shine.
Okay.
His players reportedly knew the starting lineup 5 days before a game. Now, just think about that for a second.
5 days. That's highly unusual in modern football, isn't it? Managers usually keep opponents guessing right up until the last minute.
Exactly. But for Mourinho, it's a critical detail. It allowed for incredibly specific mental and tactical preparation tailored to that week's opponent. Players weren't just physically getting ready, they were mentally primed. They knew exactly their role, their specific tasks, the team's strategy for the upcoming match, days in advance.
So it builds confidence, reduces uncertainty.
Absolutely. Less anxiety, more focus on execution. And here's where he shows his deep understanding of players' psychology, going beyond just the physical preparation. Mourinho had this unique decision to give players a day off after a game.
A day off. Even if maybe physically they should be doing some light recovery.
Right, even if it might not be physiologically ideal in a purely physical recovery sense. His reasoning, he thinks globally about player decompression and re-energization. He understood that after the intense mental and emotional demands of a match, the mind often needs more of a reset than the body.
That's interesting. Managing the whole person, not just the athlete.
Precisely. It's about managing the whole human being, not just a set of muscles.
So looking at a typical week under Mourinho, how would it be structured? You mentioned varying intensity.
Yeah, it's all mapped out to prepare for the game model and the specific opponent. Early in the week, you'd see active recovery sessions, sure, but even those were tactical. Light drills where players maintain their positional shape, maybe working on specific passing patterns within a simulated game scenario.
So they're still thinking tactically, even when recovering.
Always. Then, as the week progressed, they'd move to medium-sized game segments, focusing on particular phases of play or maybe opponent-specific scenarios, how to break down their defense, for example.
Getting more specific.
Right. By maybe Wednesday, it's bigger picture stuff, the entire defense working on their high line, perhaps, or the midfield perfecting a pressing trap. These are what you'd call team-wide principle work sessions, designed to refine the collective movements and understanding.
Okay.
And then, closer to game day, say Thursday or Friday, it gets smaller, sharper, more speed-focused drills, maybe 5-on-5 or 7-on-7, quick transitions, mimicking those high-intensity moments they'll face in the mats.
Right, sharpening up.
Exactly. Every drill, every minute of that, say, 90-minute session, deliberately simulating game duration, is designed to hardwire game actions directly into their physical and mental muscle memory. And it's specific to their role and position based on what's called the conditioned exercise principle.
It sounds remarkably intricate. A lot of thought goes into every single minute.
Oh, absolutely. And the intensity generally increases throughout the week, but the total volume of work, the overall load, is carefully managed. The goal is ensuring players are physically and mentally optimal, peaking precisely for competition on game day. It's a carefully orchestrated build-up to peak performance, not just a generic fitness regime.
Right, not just running them into the ground.
Not at all. It's very calculated.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a crucial and, let's face it, often controversial element of Mourinho's philosophy: mental fortitude and how he viewed performance pressure.
Yes, the mind game.
Well, partly, but also his own perspective. He famously said, and this really gives you insight into his unique mindset, what pressure? Pressure is when poor people in the third world try to feed their family. There is no pressure in soccer.
Wow. That's quite a statement.
It is. It provides such a stark, almost confrontational insight into his perspective on performance pressure. He aims to reframe it, doesn't he? To strip away the overwhelming anxiety from the players and put it in this broader, almost dismissive context.
It's all about building a robust psychological state within the squad then.
Definitely. He views the body as a unit where the mental and physical are just inextricably intertwined. He believes that negative thinking, say, after conceding a goal or making a mistake, can actually reduce performance-critical hormones, things like dopamine, adrenaline, testosterone.
Really? So dwelling on a mistake can physically affect you?
That's his belief. If you're dwelling on a mistake, he argues, it can flood your body with stress hormones like cortisol, making a player appear less fit or slower. Even if physically they're perfectly fine, it's the mental state impacting the physical output.
Okay. So how does he try to stop that?
His aim is to circumvent this with what he calls a soccer mindset and positive pushing. It's about training players to focus only on the performance, blocking out external factors or things they can't control, like a bad referee call or a lucky deflected goal conceded.
Just move on. Next action.
Exactly. Immediately move on and focus on the next action, the next phase of play. This is why his training, rather than just developing isolated skills, focuses so intensely on performance within game situations.
Right.
It's designed to prevent what he calls the training champion syndrome. You know, those players who look brilliant in practice, absolutely fly in drills, but then crumble or underperform when faced with the immense pressure of a real game in front of 70,000 people.
Yeah, we've all seen those players.
He wants players who perform when it counts, not just when it's easy.
Now, let's fast forward to where the special one truly made his indelible mark on English football. His 2 reigns at Chelsea Football Club. We're talking 2004 to 2007, that first explosive period, and then his emotional return from 2013 to 2015.
Yeah, 2 very distinct but equally dramatic periods.
Right.
Immense success, but also, as you said, those telling clashes.
His arrival in 2004, fresh off that completely unexpected Champions League win with Porto, was just audacious, wasn't it?
Understatement of the year.
It was at his very first press conference upon joining Chelsea that he delivered the line, the line that would define his persona, his career, everything. We have top players, and sorry if I'm arrogant, we have a top manager. I am the European champion. I think I'm a special one.
Boom! And just like that, the nickname was born, the special one. And the tone was set for a new, combative, incredibly confident era at Chelsea and in the Premier League.
And he wasted absolutely no time, did he? He became the first Portuguese manager in the Premier League and immediately set about recruiting his trusted backroom staff from Portugal. Names like Baltimore Brito, Rui Faria, even a young Andre Villas-Boas, Silvino Loro, his whole crew.
Brought his guys with him.
And he also brought in key players, some from Porto, others who just fit his specific mold, like Didier Drogba, Ricardo Carvalho, Paulo Ferreira. It was a clear, unambiguous signal of intent. He was here to reshape the squad entirely in his own winning image. No messing about.
And that first reign was just dominance, a true transformation of English football, really. Chelsea, a club that hadn't won a top-flight domestic title in 50 years.
Half a century.
It was immediately transformed. They secured their first top-flight domestic title in 50 years in that very first 2004-05 season. But it wasn't just a win, it was a statement, a huge statement.
And it wasn't just a title. They fundamentally rewrote the script for how a Premier League champion could be built, didn't they? They set Premier League records along the way. Most points ever achieved in the Premier League, 95 at the time, and that almost impenetrable defense, fewest goals conceded, 15 in a single season.
Just 15 goals conceded. Incredible. He proved that an almost impenetrable defensive solidity, meticulously drilled and tactically prioritized, could be the bedrock of dominance. Even in a league that was increasingly valuing attacking flair, he offered this stark, winning counter-narrative.
And it worked.
Oh, it worked.
Huh.
Tactically, his approach was a masterclass in pragmatism and defensive organization. He famously employed that fluid 4-3-3 formation with Claude Makélélé anchoring the midfield. That deep-lying role became so integral to his system that the position itself was often just dubbed the Makélélé role.
Yeah, everyone started talking about needing a Makélélé.
Exactly. And Mourinho's strategic insight on this was crystal clear. He said, if I have a triangle in midfield, Claude Makélélé behind, and two others just in front, I will always have an advantage against a pure 4-4-2. I will always have an extra man.
Simple tactical logic, but devastatingly effective.
That conceptual clarity and tactical advantage made Chelsea incredibly formidable. They were just exceptionally difficult to break down and absolutely devastating on the counterattack with players like Drogba, Robin, Duff.
Speed and power, and the trophy haul from that first stint just speaks for itself. 2 Premier League titles, an FA Cup, 2 League Cups, all in just 3 seasons. He was without a doubt a serial winner who delivered immediate, significant silverware.
But even in the glow of all that glory, you could see cracks forming beneath the surface, couldn't you? There was early friction, like that controversial Champions League semifinal loss to Liverpool in 2005, that ghost goal. People still argue about that one.
Oh yeah, Luis Garcia, never forgotten by Chelsea fans.
And, of course, the absolutely legendary, almost unbelievable incident of Mourinho hiding in a laundry basket to communicate with his players during a Champions League quarterfinal against Bayern Munich because he had a touchline ban.
You couldn't make it up. A laundry basket.
It sounds like something out of a spy thriller, doesn't it? But really, it encapsulates his win-at-all-costs mentality, his defiance of authority, and his almost theatrical approach to management. He wasn't just a manager. He was a showman, even when banned from the touchline.
His departure in 2007 felt quite abrupt, though, didn't it? It was attributed to disagreements with owner Roman Abramovich.
Yeah, the relationship soured.
This wasn't just a minor squabble, it seemed. It was the first real tremor of that fundamental power struggle, the manager versus the owner, that would kind of haunt him throughout his later career, especially when we get to Manchester United.
It showed that even immense success didn't guarantee him absolute control or immunity from boardroom politics. The owner always has the final say, ultimately.
Which brings us neatly to his second reign, starting in 2013. This felt different, didn't it? It was framed as an emotional return.
Very much so. Mourinho himself leaned into that narrative, stating, "In my career, I've had 2 great passions, Inter and Chelsea is more than important for me." It felt like an overt attempt to rebuild that deep connection with the fan base, a kind of homecoming for the special one.
And he certainly continued his trophy success, didn't he? He won another league title in 2014-15 and a League Cup during the second stint. The winning touch was undeniably still there.
He proved he could still deliver silverware and build a successful team, even with different players and in a slightly different landscape in the Premier League.
However, during this period, he also had that strange tendency to play down Chelsea's title chances, remember? Calling the 2013-14 season a transitional season, even while they were right up there, competing at the very top. Whole little horse analogy.
Ah, yes, the little horse needing milk. Classic deflection tactics. He also became known again for sharp, sometimes dismissive, public remarks about opponents, like his infamous 19th century football comment about Sam Allardyce's West Ham United and their defensive style.
He never shied away from a verbal battle.
Never. These comments often stirred controversy, but also arguably served to shield his own team from pressure, create that siege mentality again.
And even in the successful second period, he experienced his first ever home league defeat as Chelsea manager against Sunderland. That felt like a significant moment, didn't it? A reminder that even the special one wasn't invincible, particularly at Stamford Bridge, where you'd built such an incredible fortress.
Yeah, that unbeaten home run was astonishing, so seeing it end was a shock. And in terms of player management, his decision to drop and eventually sell Chelsea's Player of the Year, Juan Mata, was a big one.
Mata was hugely popular.
Hugely. But it demonstrated Mourinho's ruthless, unwavering approach to aligning players with his specific game model. Even if it meant moving on a fan favorite or a technically gifted player like Mata, who maybe didn't offer the defensive work rate he demanded, it showed that his system and the collective always came first.
And ultimately, just like his first tenure, his second departure was abrupt and, well, by all accounts, pretty messy again.
Yeah, the third season syndrome narrative started to really take hold around then.
He was dismissed in 2015 after a poor run of results, just months after winning the league title. It indicated that even his immense success and his emotional connection to the club couldn't guarantee long-term stability when the immediate on-field performance dipped, and crucially, relationships behind the scenes frayed again.
It was a stark reminder of the cutthroat nature of elite football. What have you won for me lately?
Exactly. Win the league in May, gone by December. Incredible. All right, let's turn the page now to Jose Mourinho's time at Manchester United from 2016 to 2018. This tenure, while, initially successful and adding more trophies to his cabinet, really serves as a fascinating, almost cautionary case study. It's about the evolving dynamics of power in modern football.
Yeah, this is where things get really complex, I think. It's where the sort of old guard of managerial authority truly started to grapple with new forces in the game.
His entry to Manchester United in 2016 was kind of a sign of the times itself, wasn't it? A marker of a new era. He didn't arrive with the traditional big press conference announcement first.
No, how did he announce it?
He made his debut through his brand new Instagram account.
Wow, okay. Very 21st century.
Exactly. A clear nod to the changing media landscape in football, where a digital presence, that direct connection with fans, was becoming increasingly vital, not just for clubs, but for these big individual personalities too.
And the winning continued right away, didn't it? He had immediate trophy impact.
He did. Secured the FA Community Shield in 2016, the League Cup in 2017, and crucially, the UEFA Europa League in 2017. That got them back into the Champions League.
And he maintained his impressive 100% record in major European Cup finals up to that point. It quickly added to his legendary status as a winner who delivered instant silverware. He really did bring a winning mentality back to Old Trafford, at least initially, even if fans maybe quibbled about the style of play.
Yeah, the style was often debated. And to bolster his squad, to mold it further into his vision, he made key signings in 2017. He brought in players like Romelu Lukaku up front, Victor Lindelof in defense, and Nemanja Matic from Chelsea in midfield.
Right, players he knew, players who fit his profile, often physically robust players, suited to his more direct, pragmatic style. He was actively trying to shape the team to fit his familiar game model, just as he always had done everywhere else.
But this is where it gets really interesting, because we can look at Mourinho's reign at Manchester United through the powerful lens of John Kenneth Galbraith's Anatomy of Power.
Okay, Galbraith, tell us about that.
Well, Galbraith, a renowned economist, proposed 3 sources of power: personality, property, like wealth or resources, and organization, the institution itself, and 3 instruments of power used to exercise it: condign, punishment threat; compensatory, reward benefit; and conditioned, shaping belief sculpture.
Right, okay, so it's a framework.
Exactly. And this framework gives us a truly powerful way to dissect what was happening during Mourinho's often tumultuous, often controversial time at United.
Okay, let's bring it down. Start with Mourinho's personality as a source of power.
Well, he's been described as a managerial juggernaut. Undeniably charismatic, definitely have sparkle, but also often perceived as negative, obstinate, awkward by critics.
That duality again, charm and combativeness, it was absolutely central to his public persona, wasn't it?
Clearly. Even Louis van Gaal, who was his former mentor at Barcelona, described Mourinho early in his career as an arrogant young man who didn't respect authority that much. Seems he saw it coming.
Huh. Yeah, maybe. And pundits. Ken early likened him to Napoleon, seeing him as this master strategist intent on conquering. Callum Patrick called him Machiavelli, an unquenchable winner, willing to employ, well, pretty much any means necessary to achieve victory.
These descriptions really capture that dual nature, don't they? Both magnetic and incredibly divisive. A man who seemed to thrive on being the center of attention and often the antagonist.
And we saw this confrontational, defiant personality play out in public, didn't we? In highly controversial moments, like that tunnel incident against his former club Chelsea in 2018. Remember that?
Oh yes, the Marco Ianni incident.
Exactly. But also Mourinho's reaction. He cupped his ear to fans who were jeering him and then famously held up 3 fingers to remind them almost defiantly of the 3 Premier League titles he had won for Chelsea.
Classic Mourinho. Never back down.
It illustrated his willingness to engage directly and defiantly with perceived antagonists. He often seemed to delight in turning the opposition's negativity back on them. It was pure theater sometimes, but also pure Mourinho.
Okay, now let's explore Galbraith's instruments of power through Mourinho's actions at United, because this is where his man management really comes into sharp focus. First, condign power punishment, or the threat of it.
The stick, basically.
The stick. Mourinho definitely used this. He would publicly question defender Luke Shaw and Chris Smalling for injuries, sometimes implying a lack of mental toughness or commitment, calling them out in press conferences.
Yeah, that created a real stir. It created an environment of very direct accountability, and for some players, perhaps fear. It was designed to push players to their absolute limits.
And there's also the instance people point to of him reportedly bullying Bastian Schweinsteiger, a World Cup winner, no less, allegedly telling him to find another club, isolating him from the main squad, making him train with the reserves.
Yeah, that didn't look good from the outside. It highlights his confrontational, motivational style, which, look, it could be very effective for some players who responded to that kind of tough love, that challenge, but clearly alienating and demotivating for others who preferred a different approach, maybe an arm around the shoulder.
It was a high-risk, high-reward strategy with player psychology.
Definitely. Then there's compensatory power using reward or benefit, the carrot.
Right. Mourinho also skillfully employed this. He would use public praise and recognition to build players up when they did well, when they followed instructions. For example, he famously named young midfielder Scott McTominay his special one after a good performance.
Right. McTominay really came through under him.
And he publicly lauded David De Gea as the club's player of the year, calling him the best in the world. This demonstrates his use of positive reinforcement, showering praise on those who met his demanding standards, inspiring loyalty and motivating top performances from those he trusted.
It was a very deliberate carrot and stick approach, wasn't it? You knew where you stood. Perform, follow orders, get praise. Don't, and you might get the public criticism.
Exactly. And finally, conditioned power. This is about cultivating belief and team spirit, shaping the culture.
Getting buy-in.
This is arguably the most crucial for a manager aiming for collective submission. Because Galbraith argues that if confidence is lost, if belief wavers, players subconsciously stop following orders, even if they don't mean to.
Right, the spell is broken.
Yeah. Mourinho always sought to inspire an unshakable will to win, often through direct, assertive messaging, creating that us against the world mentality we talked about. It's about getting players to internalize the philosophy, to believe so completely in his methods that they execute without hesitation, even under immense pressure.
He aimed to instill that deep, almost automatic compliance, belief in the process, belief in him.
So this raises a really important question. What happens when a powerful personality like Mourinho, who relies so heavily on those instruments of power, the stick, the carrot, the belief, clashes with the even larger power of organization?
The institution itself.
Exactly. Manchester United, as a massive $4 and a 1 beat entity, according to Forbes at the time, often trumps personality. The club is bigger than any one individual, even Mourinho. And his frustrations in dealing with the club's directors and owners, particularly Ed Woodward, became increasingly public. You could feel that palpable sense of internal strife.
Yeah, the transfer sagas, the public comments.
Yeah.
It was clear things weren't harmonious behind the scenes.
He famously lamented, and this quote really encapsulates his frustration towards the end, "The manager cannot choose. The manager cannot coach. The manager cannot speak about the player. It's the only club."
Wow, that's quite an indictment.
It starkly reveals the limits he felt were placed on his traditional managerial authority when confronted by the club's institutional power and its broader commercial objectives. He felt increasingly constrained, unable to operate with the autonomy he perhaps had or felt he had at previous clubs.
And even former United captain Gary Neville was critical of the board's handling of Mourinho's dismissal, wasn't he? Underscoring this deep internal struggle and the perception that the club's leadership was perhaps undermining its own manager.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets really interesting and reflects the seismic shifts happening in the modern game. The rise of player promotional power.
Player power, but amplified.
Massively amplified. This is a key insight from our sources. The social media enhanced power of some celebrity players directly and indirectly undermined Mourinho's authority in ways that perhaps wouldn't have happened 10 or 15 years earlier. We are now firmly in the age of the Instagram footballer, where top players are global brands in their own right, with direct lines to millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, of fans.
And the Paul Pogba case is the absolute quintessential headline-grabbing example of this new dynamic, isn't it?
It really is. Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward's refusal to sell Pogba, despite highly public spats with Mourinho, where the manager clearly wanted him out, seemed largely motivated by commercial and reputational concerns.
Pogba was a commercial giant for United.
Huge. Woodward was absolutely ecstatic about Pogba's signing, remember? He noted it broke industry records on social media platforms, the highest daily activity ever on our website, most retweeted Manchester United posts of all time on Twitter, biggest signing day post in soccer history on Facebook, and most liked United post ever on Instagram.
So the metrics were off the charts.
Off the charts. This isn't just about footballing ability anymore, is it? It's about how a player's brand value, their commercial pull, can now override traditional managerial authority and purely on-field concerns. The manager wants him out. The board says no because he sells shirts and generates clicks.
It's a real catch-22 for clubs, though. They absolutely value social media for bringing down walls with fans, increasing global engagement, driving massive commercial revenue. It's essential now.
Yeah, they need it.
But at the same time, they fear information leaks, players undermining the manager's message, or this very direct access challenging manager control. It's a new frontier where the old rules simply don't apply, and clubs are still figuring out how to navigate it without losing control of the dressing room.
And this ties directly into Ed Woodward's concept of what he called the virtuous circle. Remember this?
Vaguely, Romani.
He stated that commercial success is only possible because of the unparalleled engagement we have with our fans, which equals greater revenue and more opportunities for academy investment and world-class signings to deliver the performances and success United fans expect and deserve. And then he put it simply, for us to win on the pitch, we have to win off it.
Right. So the commercial success fuels the football success. In theory.
In theory. But it also highlights how commercial considerations were increasingly influencing on-field decisions. And sometimes, clearly, clashing directly with a manager's traditional control over the squad and his strategic vision. It meant sometimes keeping a player for their commercial value, even if they were maybe a disruptive force in the dressing room or didn't fully fit the manager's tactical plan.
A fundamental conflict between the manager's needs and the club's commercial strategy.
Exactly. So what does this all mean for the special one at United? Well, despite those initial trophy successes, the League Cup, the Europa League Mourinho's tenure at Manchester United ended acrimoniously, you could say, on truly bitter terms.
Yeah, it wasn't a happy ending.
No. In December 2018, just 4 months shy of completing his 3-year contract. And in large part, this seems due to these evolving and clashing power dynamics. The special one met his match not just in rival teams on the pitch, but within the very fabric of his own club's modern structure, a structure increasingly driven by global brand and commercial imperatives rather than solely traditional footballing ones.
It's a fascinating end to that chapter. So as we reflect on Jose Mourinho's incredible journey, thinking about those 2 stints at Chelsea, the dominance, the drama, and then his really challenging time at Manchester United, We see this compelling case study of modern football management, don't we?
We really do. His career is just a testament to his mastery of tactical periodization, that incredible attention to detail, his uncanny ability to cultivate a fiercely loyal team spirit, that us against the world thing, and his strategic, often confrontational use of those power instruments we discussed, the rewards, the punishments, the sheer inspiration sometimes.
And there's that enduring paradox to his career, isn't there? Here is a manager who relentlessly prioritizes results, often, let's face it, at the expense of what many would call attractive football.
Definitely. He's been described as the anti-Barcelona, famously willing to win a huge Champions League semifinal with just 28% possession if it meant securing the victory. Pragmatism over purity, always.
Yet, he achieves unparalleled success across different leagues, different countries, different clubs, demonstrating this pragmatic, often unyielding approach to winning that has consistently delivered silverware time and time again. You can't argue with the trophy cabinet.
You really can't. And his later career, particularly at Manchester United, vividly highlights these evolving power dynamics in elite football. We've seen how the influence of organizational commercial interests and that burgeoning player promotional power, massively amplified by social media, can challenge even the most dominant, most established managerial personalities.
Yeah, the landscape has shifted. His volatile behavior and those saber-toothed sound bites, as some called them, were often met with fierce support from former players who lauded his unique man management skills, saying he got the best out of them.
Right. Players like Drogba, Terry, Lampard, Materazzi, they swear by him.
Exactly. Yet these very same qualities also led to significant friction with the institutions he served, particularly later on, ultimately contributing to his departures.
So, as we reflect on Mourinho's incredible journey, a career defined by unprecedented success, but also by constant battles for control, maybe consider this. In an increasingly commercialized and social media-driven football world is the era of the all-powerful special one manager, the figure who demands absolute control and bends institutions to his will. Is that era truly over?
That's a great question. Or will new generations of coaches just find novel, maybe different ways to assert their will against these powerful, evolving forces, the commercial pressures, the player power? What kind of leader do you think is best suited to navigate this complex landscape in the years to come? Something to think about.